Om Shri Sai Ram, Gita Vahini by Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba, Chapter 3, Normal Delusion and Abnormal Delusion. It is more useful for the student to search for his own faults with a view to remove them than for him to seek his excellencies so that he might exult over them. A student who does this can progress fast. He moves on with faith in the Lord on whom he has placed all his burdens. He reaches a state of mental calmness, which is the sign of him attaining dhanyata or success or fulfillment or blessedness. Arjuna finally was able to reach that stage. Lord Krishna desires everyone to reach that stage. In fact, it is for conferring immortality to all mankind. Lord Krishna gave the nectarous teachings of Gita, referring Arjuna as merely a nimitta matram, or just an instrument. Just think for a moment, for whom was the Gita spoken, and you will realize the above fact. Milk is not taken from the udder for the sake of the cow, for cows do not drink their own milk. Arjuna, the calf, has had his fill. Krishna is ever content, and he needs nothing, not to mention milk. For those sake was it then that the Upanishads were milked by Krishna to get this nectarous essence called Gita. Krishna says, it is for the Shuddhi Jana or pure or virtuous people. Therefore, it is very clear that the Gita Amritam is for those who are Gunavanta or virtuous. And what of the place where the message was given between two opposing armies? Therein lies the great significance of the place. On one side, the Dharma Putras, on the other, the Danava Vyaktis. On one side, the good, on the other side, the bad. Between these two poles, the individual, unable to decide which course to adopt in the samsara or worldly existence, grieves in despair. And the Lord gives the Gita Amritam to all such and grants them light and courage. Do not think that the distress of Arjuna was just his affair, his problem, and no more. It is a universal human problem. For Arjuna, who is a great Jnani, surrendered to Krishna and sought from him not prayers, the pleasing worldly glory of power and status and wealth, but Shreyas, the lasting glory of absolute joy. Prayers is available through human effort. It can be won by karma or human activity. He said, why should I crave from you what I can win by my own endeavor? I am not so foolish as all that. Grant me the Shreyas that is beyond the reach of my efforts. Shreyas is not the fruit of karma. It is granted only by your grace. Thus, Arjuna rose to the height of Sharanagati, absolute self-surrender, the state called Prapati. Much can be said of this Sharanagati. In this world, man surrenders to various aspects in life like ego, attachments, pride, hypocrisy, wealth, fame, possessions, etc. But it is rare that he gets a chance to surrender to the Lord for the sake of the Lord. How can he get the chance so long as he craves for the adheya and not for the adhara? He longs for the object but does not long for the base on which the object rests. How long can a baseless object satisfy? Can there be an object without support or base? No. If there is one, it can only be the Paramatma or the Supreme Self or Supreme Reality. Therefore, surrender rather to the Sarveshwara who is the absolute underlying basis for everything that is genuine Sharanagati. It is therefore sheer ignorance to surrender to the transitory objects which are supported by the absolute basis. Because Arjuna was a Param Jnani, he submitted himself to the Lord in the spirit of Sharanagati. There are 3 types of Sharanagati in all. Te Vyavaham, I am thine. Mameva Tvam, you are mine. And Tvameva Evaham, thou art I. The first affirms, I am yours. The second asserts, you are mine. And the third declares, you and I are one, the same. Each is just a step in the rising series, and the last is the highest step of all. In the first stage, Teva Vaham, I am thine. The Lord is Sarva Swatantra, fully free, and the devotee is Paratantra, fully bound or dependent. That is to say, Lord is like the cat and devotee the kitten. The kitten just mews and accepts whatever happens. This attitude is very gentle and is within easy reach of all. In the second, Mameva Tvam, you are mine. The devotee is Swatantra, free, and the Lord is Paratantra, bound by the devotee. The devotion of Surdas is a good example of this attitude. Krishna, you may escape from my hold, from the clasp of these arms, but you cannot escape from my heart, where you are bound by me. Challenged Surdas. The Lord just smiled and assented. Yes, I am bound by my devotees. He asserts, without any loss of self-respect, in this stage the devotee can tie up the Lord with his bhakti. When man is full of this type of bhakti or devotion, the Lord will himself bless him with everything he needed. His grace will fulfill all the needs. Remind yourself here of the promise made by the Lord in the Gita. Yoga, Shyam, Vahamahayam. I shall support him in acquiring that is yet to be acquired, or yoga, and protect the thus acquired Shyam. This statement encompasses the acquiring of both worldly and spiritual, as the completely surrendered devotee is bound, that is beyond the dualities like worldly and spiritual. For him or her, everything is Lord and nothing else. Hence, it is the duty of the Lord to sustain his devotee by taking care of the needs. Next, about the third stage, Tvam Eva Aham Iti Tridha, I and you are one. This is the Avibhakta Bhakti, the inseparable devotion. The devotee offers all to the Lord, including himself, for he feels at last that he cannot withhold himself. That completes his surrender. If he surrenders all to the Lord but not himself, then it is considered Advaita or dualistic Sharanagati. But the Tvam Eva Aham realization is the Advaita or non-dualistic Sharanagati, based on the experience that all this is Vasudeva, the self-illuminating pure consciousness, that is self, which dwells everywhere and in everything, and nothing else. So long as the Deha Abhimanam persists, the Bhakta or the devotee is the Dasa or servant, and the Lord is Prabhu or master. Then, so long as the Jiva Abhimanam, so long as the Jiva Abhimanam, that is identifying oneself as a limited individual being and feels that he is separate from the limitless, the Bhakta is an Amsha or part, and the Lord is the Purana or whole. When the Bhakta progresses to the state when he gets beyond the limits of the body as well as of I and mine, then there is no more distinction. Bhakta and Bhagwan are the same. In the Ramayana, Hanuman progressed through all these three stages, one after the other, and ultimately realized that he is one with the Lord. The same subject is mentioned in the 7th shloka of the 2nd chapter of the Gita and the related fourfold principles. The word prapanna to God used these indicates that Arjuna was the adhikara lakshanam, or the deserved quality to reach the stage of sharanagati, that is the absolute self-surrender. How did he reach that stage? For Arjuna had analyzed his own faults and recognized them as such, and then submitted himself to Lord Krishna in the spirit of sharanagati. So, when man recognizes his own faults, he gets adhikara lakshanam. Moreover, such a person is said to have awakened from tamoguna, or quality of dullness. Inert life of merely eating and sleeping is the characteristic of tamoguna. Arjuna was able to recognize his own faults because he conquered tamoguna and was vigilant about his inner faculties. Krishna appreciated this the moment it happened and said, Nidra, or sleep, is the upalasanam, an indicator which includes many more similar qualities of tamoguna. However, to the one you have conquered Nidra, what can this Moha Indra, or the slumber of delusion, do? Even if it has any effect on you, it is just temporary. That is why you were able to overcome it with ease and return to your native state, and were able to recognize your own faults and surrender to me. You should have lamented much earlier at home itself. From then on, Arjuna was set right as an ideal discipline, and Lord Krishna himself the Guru or preceptor. Krishna is the Adhipati or controller of Indriyas or senses, and Arjuna is the one who won control over his senses. Hence, Krishna is known as Rishikesha, the Lord of all senses, and Arjuna as Gudakesha, conqueror of sleep, that represents ignorance. What exactly is the cause of all dukkham or grief? Deha or body is the cause of all dukkham. What is the cause for deha? Raga, like or attachment, and dvesha are the causes of the deha. What causes raga and dvesha? They are the results of shobhana buddhi, or the intellect that overvalues something or someone than it deserves. For example, thinking the world gives me happiness, and ashobhana buddhi, intellect that undervalues something or someone, then it merits. That is to mean the intellect considering some things and conditions as anukula or favorable or good, and some other things and conditions as pratikula or unfavorable or bad. And this idea of anukula and pratikula by the jiva or individual is caused by bhranti or delusion. Naturally, an individual starts showing prema, liking or affection towards the objects that are considered good, and develops dvesha or dislike or hatred towards the objects that are considered bad. But from the divine or highest point of view, there is neither dvaita buddhi, that is dualistic nature of mind, is the cause for such differences. There are no two at all. It is because of being immersed in such dvaita buddhi that Arjuna was plunged in ajnana or ignorance up until that time. And what is the primary cause of this ajnanam? Lack or absence of tattva jnanam. People interpret the meaning of tattva in a plethora of ways. However, the final resolution should be one who is raptured by ajnanam or ignorance has to become free from the cycle of birth and death. Else, man has to sink and swim in the ocean of grief in every birth. So, if man destroys ajnanam or ignorance, he can be free from grief. Many a prescription is recommended, used, publicized, and repeated parrot-like by all kinds of quacks, but they do not go to the root of the matter. They are like the balm applied to the eye to cure an ache in the stomach. The disease and the drug have no coordination. The ache must be spotted and diagnosed, and the drug must be such as will remove it. Then alone will it be cured. Except for Narayana, the divine doctor, it is highly impossible for others to cure it. And he has not only diagnosed Arjuna's illness correctly but administered him the right medicine too. The drug drew out all the dirt of ignorance from inside. The wound that cannot be healed by external application of balms has to be cured by internal remedies. So, Krishna prodded Arjuna with queries to know the underlying cause of his wound. Why do you weep like a coward? It is because Bhishma, Drona and the rest are to die? No, the cause of your sorrow is not about their death. In fact, you weep because you feel they are your men. It is the mamakaram or attachment or minus that makes you weep. 3/4 of the people weep not for the dead, but because they feel that the dead are theirs. That is, they weep because of mamakaram. Have you not killed many in the past who were not yours? You never shed any tears for them. Today you weep since you are under the spell of mamakaram, that these whom you see before you are somehow yours in a special way. And what causes this mamakaram or attachment or minus? Ahamkaram, egoism or I-ness. When you sleep, you are unaffected by this feeling of I and mine. So you are unaware of what happens to your body or the bodies of your men, or to your possessions, items which you carefully remember while awake. Mine is the possessive case of I, and so it comes in its trail naturally. You sweet fool, ajnanam, the fundamental ignorance is the identification of yourself with something that is not you. The body, deha, is anatma. You believe that it is the atma. This is viparita jnanam, the erroneous conception. This cannot be called as jnanam. Identification of the self with the body is nothing but a jnanam or ignorance. Arjuna, to cure your ajnanam, I must therefore administer the divine medicine of jnanam or wisdom itself. Nothing else can cure it. Thus, Krishna started giving him in the very first instant the most effective drug, Atma Jnanam or self-knowledge. This is detailed from the 11th shloka of the 2nd chapter. This marks the beginning of Lord Krishna's teachings on Atma Jnanam. This is a source or root shloka for the whole Gita. In this shloka, Krishna condemns outright two objections that were haunting Arjuna for long. The first, that his misconception, the destruction of the body as the destruction of the Atma. The second, that he is grieving for those he need not grieve for. Yet you talk like a wise man. You have mistaken notions about Swadharma and Adharma and contradict the statements of Pandits, said Krishna. Here the reader's attention has to be paid to one fact. Arjuna is suffering from two types of moha or delusion. Samanya, number one, samanya or normal, and number two, asadharana, abnormal, mistaking the body as self. that is Atma, and to ascribe Deha Dharma as Atma Dharma is the Samanya Moha or normal delusion. To discard one's own Dharma as a Dharma is a Sadharana Moha, abnormal delusion, and it is this unusual delusion that is present in Arjuna. Therefore, Lord Krishna condemns the first and removes the second. The first is dealt with Atma Bodha or knowledge of the self by Lord Krishna from the 12th to the 30th shloka of the second chapter. He has to tackle the second as an unusual problem and explain in 8 shlokas the idea of Swadharma to Arjuna. These are collectively called Dharmastaka, the group of 8 shlokas on the subject of Swadharma. Next, he taught Nishkama Karma Yoga, that is performing actions without attachment to the fruit thereof, the attitude with which Swadharma has to be followed so that it does not bind and produce further births, but rather leads to moksham or liberation. Towards the close of the second chapter, there is also the description of the Sthita Prajna, or a person with steady, unshakable spiritual wisdom. Krishna continued his discourse. Arjuna, think for a while who you are and what you are proposing to do. You declare that you know everything, yet you weep like a helpless woman. Your words proclaim that you are a Pandit, but your acts reveal you as a simpleton. Hearing you, one would infer you are a Jnani. But seeing your acts, one would find out that you are an Ajnani. You are in a state of confusion, to say the least. Well, if I take you to be a Pandit, I cannot reconcile that view with your tears, for Pandits do not grieve over life and death. If they grieve, they are not Pandits. Panda means Tattva Nirnaya Buddhi, or capacity to decide on what is fundamentally true. Those with that capacity alone can be called Pandits. So Pandits are those who know the Deha Marma, or the secret of the body, and the Atma Dharma, nature of the self. Isn't it? How then can they weep over either the embodied or the disembodied? They will not forego their focused intent, whatever stress or distress might occur. The fully ignorant ones who are unaware of both Deha Marmam and Atma Dharmam will grieve over the dead. Those with half knowledge will grieve about the welfare of the living, and those who are fully wise will have no grief over the living or the dead. Arjuna, do you weep because the bodies of Bhishma and Drona would fall off? Or is it because the Atma of those two would be destroyed? For the bodies, do you say? Well, for how many have you to weep in that case? Is weeping beneficial in any way? If so, certainly people would have kept the corpses of the dead and revived them by their weeping, or even hire some men exclusively to weep for revival. No, it can never be. Immerse the body in vessels of Amritam, divine nectar. It cannot come back to life. Why then weep over the inevitable, the unavoidable? You might say that you are weeping for the Atma, the eternal self, that reveals a greater foolishness. Death can never even approach the Atma. It is eternal, self-evident and pure. So, what are you weeping for then? Therefore, it is evident that you have no Atma Jnanam or Atmic knowledge at all. Again, for the Kshatriya, fighting is Swadharma. You ask, Katham Bhishma Maham Sankhya. How can I cause the death of Bhishma in war? Do your duty regardless of other considerations. You are killing them on the battlefield where they have come to get killed and to kill. You are not killing them in their homes. Of course, it is a dharma to kill them in their homes. But on the battlefield, how can it be so? I'm sorry you have not got this much of vivekam. That is discrimination between dharma and adharma. Is it enough? Get up and get ready for the fray. Why slide to the ground under the weight of all this useless mamakaram or attachment and minus? The Lord is the cause of all, not you. There is a higher power that moves everything. Those who realize this do not yield to any calamities. For Kshatriyas or warriors, the battlefield is a dhara tirtha. Dhara, an inevitable dhara or place of tirtha or crossover straight to heaven. For those warriors who fall to death in battle by the sword's edge. Knowing this, Bhishma, Drona and the rest have come to the battle to give up their bodies and ascend to heaven. They do not weep like you. Consider that. They will never grieve or withdraw like you, Arjuna. This is the testing time for you, remember. Let me tell you this also. There was never a time when I was not, nor will there be a time when I would not be. Why? There was never a time when even you and all these soldiers, kings and princes were not. So, there was never a time when we were not. Then Krishna taught Arjuna the meaning of the Mahavakya, Tat Tvam Asi, by explaining that Tat or that the divine is the Paramatma or the creator, the universal soul. Tvam, this, yourself, is the Jivatma or the embodied being, and both were always the same, are always the same, and will be so forever. Mud exists prior to the pot, so also the Adhisthana or base existed prior to the Kalpita or creation. Arjuna was shocked into awareness and wakefulness by all this. He said, Krishna, maybe you are God, maybe you are indestructible. I weep not for you. What happens to us who came yesterday, present today, and of tomorrow? Please enlighten me. One point has to be carefully noticed here. Tat, that is, the Godhead is Nityam, eternal, everyone accepts it. But Tvam, the individual too is Godhead. It too is eternal, though it cannot be grasped so easily or so quickly by ordinary folk. So, Krishna elaborates this and says, Arjuna, you, that is the Jiva or the individuals too are eternal as the Absolute. Tvam may appear as limited, but when seen apart from the Upadhis, both are basically the same. Prior to the appearance of the jewel, there was just gold. During the existence of the jewel, there is just gold. And after the name form of the jewel has gone, the gold persists too. Similarly, the Atma, the Self, the pure consciousness, persists eternally independent of the body or no body. Jai Sai Ram.
साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ